Okay, hello and welcome to the video. This is probably the 8th place I've tried to film in my house. The lighting is not really good anywhere, but I'm trying something new. It might be equally terrible. It probably is equally terrible, but you never know until you try, so here we are. I tried today. I wore makeup, I wore jeans, and I wore a shirt that was actually made for girls, so you're welcome. People who do not give two craps. Okay, let's just start talking. I don't know what I'm doing anymore. Okay, so, the reading rush is happening from July 20th to 26th, and it's a readathon hosted by Ariel and Raylene, and it's been going on for a while, and I'm sure people know what it is. Okay, I am participating. That's what I'm trying to say. Yes. Wow, I'm a mess. Okay, I'm participating. There are 7 prompts, and this readathon lasts for 7 days, and I'm working, so there's not a chance in hell that I managed to read 7 books in 7 days. That being said, I'm going to create a TBR as if I will be able to do that, and then I will give you the realistic, what I'm probably actually going to do to fulfill all the prompts after that. So, here's the dream TBR, the TBR that will never happen. The first one, read a book with a cover the color of your birthstone. So I was born in June, and that has confusingly many colors associated with it. There's pearl, which is like a white or a silver, and then there's alexandrite, which is purple sometimes and blue sometimes. And I had no idea this was one of my birthstones, but I learned it, which is exciting. And so for this, I would read First and Then by Emma Mills. I bought it for my friend for her birthday like 5 years ago because I heard John Green talk about it, I think. And I really like John Green and she really liked this book. And so now she let me borrow it and I'm gonna read it. There's some white. This whole thing is blues and purples. And I've decided that that counts. So First and Then is like a YA coming of age contemporary romance type deal. From what I've gathered from the synopsis, it's just like a cute, in love with one person and then maybe fall in love with somebody else. I don't really know, but it seems like kind of a classic, uplifting story that I haven't been reading that much of lately, and so I'm excited to jump into one now. So that's book 1. Okay. The second prompt is to read a book that starts with the word the, and so for me that's going to be The Underground Railroad by Colson Whitehead. This is a book that I talked about in the most recent video I made. It imagines the Underground Railroad as a real railroad network. It follows a young woman, Cora, escaping slavery. Overall, it sounds super cool, and it won the Pulitzer Prize. I can't believe I forgot that. It won the Pulitzer Prize, so I feel like it's going to be worth my time. Okay, even if I don't get to it in the reading rush, I will definitely be reading it either the week after or the week before, depending. I'm really excited to read this book, so that's number 2. Number 3 is reading a book of a movie you've already seen. Now, this is incredible to me that I have not yet read this book because I watched the movie and adored it. I watched it twice in one weekend because I liked it so much. I feel like the science nerd in me is coming out a little bit with this one, but this book is The Martian by Andy Weir. Whatever. I loved this movie, and I've been wanting to read this book for so long, and it's actually incomprehensible that I haven't yet read it. I've purchased this book 3 separate times, and twice I gifted it to other people because it seemed like such a cool book, and I knew other people would like it too. And then the 3rd time is this one, and I'm actually gonna fucking read this one. The Martian follows this astronaut, Mark Watney. He's one of the first astronauts on space, but then the crew thinks he dies and leaves without him, but he's actually alive, and it's about him trying to find a way to signal back to Earth that he's still alive and trying to stay alive as long as possible to increase his chances of getting rescued, but at the same time being pretty confident he's not going to get rescued. I'm pretty afraid of space, like the prospect of being in outer space and not on Earth, although I guess technically Earth isn't space, you know what I mean. The prospect of that is one of my greatest fears. This movie could have been like the most terrifying thing ever, but from what I remember, the main character is really funny and has this like really dark sense of humor that makes his entire situation really enjoyable even while you're terrified and stressed for him, and so I'm excited for that. Okay, the next prompt is read the first book you touch. For this one, I'm just gonna go to my bookshelf and touch a random book, right? Like if I was going to do the Dream World scenario, so I don't have a book here specifically for that, I'll pick that closer to the date, depending on what I happen to read in that time. So that'll be read the first book I touch. The next one is read a book completely outside your house. And for that one, I want to read Night Sky with Exit Wounds by Ocean Vuong. This is a poetry collection. Ocean Vuong is a really highly acclaimed poet and writer. He wrote On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous, which is another book that I also want to read. I like the idea of reading a poetry book outside rather than something else. I think this poetry book mainly contains poems about his father who passed away in Vietnam, and about, it says, subjects of romance, family memory, grief, war, and melancholia. So that's more or less all I know about him and about his poetry. But it's tiny, and I've read one of the poems already, and I loved it, and the cover is super aesthetic, which still not a good reason to read a book, but I am who I am, so that's not going to change. The next one is read a book in a genre you've always wanted to read more of, and for me, that is going to be science fiction, but I'm actually rereading a book for this one. I'm going to read The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams. So I read this book when I was really young. My mom and I listened to the book on tape together when she would drive me to and from school. And so I barely remember it, and I remember really liking it. To be honest, I don't know how to describe the plot of this book. This is not better. It's hilarious. That's one thing that I remember. It's about aliens, and then also about a human, and about the world ending, and space travel, and it's super confusing, and reading the blurb, as I just learned, is even more confusing, even if you've already read the book. So I'm just gonna read it, because I remember not being disappointed. Plus it's short, which I feel like is an important thing to consider when you're trying to read 7 books in 1 week. Which I sort of am, but sort of am not. We'll see. Okay, the next one is to read a book that takes place on a different continent than where you live. So this technically doesn't necessarily take place on a specific continent. It's hard to exactly say where it takes place. But this is Exit West by Mohsin Hamid. Hamid's from Pakistan. Just based on how it's described, it seems like it's at least somewhat based off of how we might imagine a more war-ridden area of Pakistan to look. I'm gonna say that it's close enough to being in a different continent. Also, even if it's like a different world, that's still a different continent, technically, right? Because fantasy world is still a different place. Just saying. So yeah, that's my ambitious TBR. I'm hopeful that I can finish as many of these as possible. I don't know how many I'll actually finish. I'm trying to be honest with myself. 7 books isn't going to happen. And so I'm not considering this as like, I need to win this, because I'm going to lose it. And that's a combination of me being pessimistic and me being realistic. And also me being fair to myself. I'm not going to beat myself up for not reading 7 books in 7 days. That's a lot of books to read. So I whittled it down to 3 books that if I read those 3, I'll technically fulfill all the prompts, because that's like me being fair to myself. These are the books that I'll read first, just so that I can be sure that I do get to all the challenges, even if I can't read all 7 books. So the first is The Martian, which satisfies prompts 2, 3, and 6. That's a 4. 2, 3, and 6. So it starts with a the. It's a book based on a movie that I've already seen, and it's science fiction, so it's a genre that I want to read more of. The next one would be Exit West, because that takes place in a different continent, but then also it's got some purple at the bottom, some blue at the top, so I'm going to call that my birthstone. So it satisfies both a book taking place on a different continent and also a book that's the cover is the color of your birthstone. So that's 1 and 7. So we've fulfilled 1, 2, 3, 6, and 7. And then 4 and 5, which is read a book outside completely and also read the first book you touch, is I'm going to take the other 4 books that I've talked about and randomly select one of them and read it outside. So I'll be the first book I touch out of all of those and read it completely outside. And so those 3 books will satisfy all the prompts, which is probably more realistic for me. I'm going to try to read all 7 books, but I'm not even going to try. I'm not even going to lie to myself. It's not going to happen. Maybe I'll read 5. Maybe I'll read 4. Maybe I'll read 1. But that's my plan. That's the information that I have for you. Have a good day. Bye.